What's going on, everyone? So the Brooklyn Nets could be the answer to our problems. The whole video on just the Nets, period, right? They have several players that the Lakers could really use, from young athletic guys to, veteran guys to centers that the Lakers could really need. But in this video, I want to focus on Cameron Johnson. Cam Johnson is coming off of a career year, and he's exactly what the Lakers need. Now, in a perfect world, you go get Nick Claxton and a Cam Johnson all in one swoop, done. Now you got your 3-and-D wing and you got your center. That would be amazing. And you know what the Lakers have that no other team really has for those two guys that Brooklyn values more than anything right now? Expiring contracts. We know for a fact the Brooklyn Nets love and want expiring contracts, right? Sean Marks and Rob Pelinka have a great relationship. You've seen the Lakers make multiple moves with the Brooklyn Nets over the years, right? Most recently, Dorian Finney-Smith and D'Angelo Russell. You had D'Angelo Russell for Brook Lopez, several years back, right? Point is that Nets and Lakers, usually you trade with people that you've traded with in the past, you have good relationships with, and Brooklyn's probably one of the few teams that wouldn't fleece us, right? We actually got Dorian Finney-Smith at a fair price, right? Because the Brooklyn Nets value the expiring contract so much. Brooklyn they are in the Giannis business, right? They want Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? Now, if they get Giannis, they're probably going to have to trade Cam Johnson and Nick Claxton. So even if they do trade for Giannis, if you're the Lakers, you still could go make a play and try to go get those guys, right? At that point, you're trying to be the third team and be like, hey, Milwaukee, or I guess fourth team, because you probably need a middle team. But the point is like, going to Milwaukee, you're like, hey, guess what? You could use expiring contracts too and kind of reset the thing. Do you really want Nick Claxton and Cam Johnson on multiple years and, where you could kind of clear the deck and you could still get guys that kind of stay afloat and you get assets, you get more assets for Giannis, right? Like, so, it might even be easier to get those guys if the Brooklyn Nets end up landing Giannis. But if they don't, guess what Brooklyn's going to want? They're going to want to continue to clear the deck like they have been, right? So Cam Johnson is a guy that's kind of your advantage point, is like, hey, we have expiring contracts. We could give you Cam Johnson's contracts and expiring. Can any other team do that? Right? Like, that is also going to give you assets and stuff. Like, I don't think you'd just be able to swap guys, but I do think there is a path where you can, kind of incentivize the Brooklyn Nets and, maybe you're giving up your first or whatever. That's why I try to go get Claxton and Johnson at the same time, because I also think it probably would be easier too, and I'll explain why it'd be easier. So this upcoming season, he's going to make $20.5 million. The reason I think it might be easier to get both Claxton and Cam Johnson at the same time is because the Brooklyn Nets didn't want to take on extra salary. Right? Like, yeah, they wanted expiring contracts, but they didn't want to take on extra salary, right? The Lakers were trying to work out other little deals and stuff like that, but they didn't want to take back more than they were sending out. So problem is yes, you have a bunch of expiring contracts, but you'd have to send out more stuff. So you'd either have to pair, Gabe and Kleba, which would be $22 million, and then get that done. And then they'd have to take on $2 million, which, maybe they'd be willing to do something like that. Or you'd have to get, if they wanted a player of value, right? Somebody that makes sense for them this season, well, then you'd be looking at Rui Hachimura and another $11 million guy. I guess technically you could do Rui Hachimura and trade him back Shake Milton because he's on a non-guaranteed deal. But, point is that might be a little more difficult, where if you get Capella, or I don't know why I keep saying Capella, Claxton, the C's, right? Claxton and Johnson, right? If you get those two guys together, that's about 45 million, 46 million. So then you could do something like Rui, Kleba would be 28 million, and then a Gabe Vincent would be 39 million, and then, throw in one more guy and good, you're there, right? So there is a path and a version of that. Maybe you're even, trading Austin Reeves for both, right? So now you're doing Rui, Reeves, and, Kleba or something like that, right? Boom. Now you're getting that trade done. Maybe you can even incentivize them to take, because hey, we're giving you Austin Reeves, take more contract. Maybe you could clear off salary, right? Brooklyn could be a place for that. But regardless, I look at the Brooklyn Nets as a problem, a solution to your problems. 3-and-D wings, centers. But Cameron Johnson, again, is coming off of a career year. Like literally, it was his best career. He is 29 years old. He just turned 29. So he's on the right side of 30, which is good. And his skill set, he's a guy that makes a lot of sense, right? He's 6'8", could play either forward position, great defender, hit the open shot, create a little bit for himself, create a little bit for others. Just very versatile piece out there on the basketball court, right? There are concerns about his injury history. He hasn't been the most reliable out there on the basketball court, right? The most games he has ever played in a season were 66 games. It's concerning, right? But, it's one of those, like when he is on the court, he is so good and is exactly what this Lakers team needs that if you can get him for the right price, like if you have to sell the farm to get him, I probably wouldn't. But if you can get him for the right price, then I'd probably do it, right? Probably make that move. But you look at this past year, right? 57 games played, started all 57 games, averaged 31.6 minutes per game, took 13.1 field goal attempts per game, shot 47.5% from the field, shot 39% from three-point range. Just so you know, he's a career 39% three-point shooter. All right. But he shot 39% on 7.2 attempts per game from three-point range. So you had a large sample size. He's a career 6-attempt guy per game. So he's a guy that is, for his career, 39% from three-point range on high volume, good volume, right? 6 attempts per game. That's really good. Now, you look at his 2-point percentage on just under 6 attempts, 5.9. He shot 57.8% from 2-point range, EFG of 58.2%, right? Shot just a hair under 90% from free throw line, 89.3% on 3.9 attempts. So he was just shy of a 50-40-90 guy last season. But he averaged 4 rebounds, 3.5 assists, a steal, half a block, and 18.8 points per game. Now, you might ask, Tyler, he had a career year, 18.8 points, right? What is he on average? Well, for his career, he's been a 13.4 rebound, 2 assists, a steal, and half a block a game guy, right? He's also a guy that is very familiar, very comfortable playing the third or fourth fiddle, right? Look at like even Phoenix. I mean, he was coming off the bench for Phoenix, right? So you're talking about a guy that, is very comfortable in that third, fourth, fifth man role, right? So, because you got to keep in mind, you got Luka, you got LeBron, right? If you keep Austin Reeves probably going to be a third guy, right? Well, you look at his time and his stint with the Phoenix Suns, it was, Chris Paul, Mikal Bridges, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, right? So like on many nights, he was the fourth, fifth option at times, right? So he's a guy that's very comfortable in that spot being a high-end blue chip role guy, right? He's better than your typical role guy. He's a guy that can knock down the 3 ball with efficiency. He's a guy that has the size that you want, right? You don't lose the size. He's 6'8". He can defend, versatile. He can slot in. Like you can slot him alongside your center right? So again, if you go trade for a Nick Claxton too in the deal, right? You could have like LeBron, Claxton, and Cam Johnson. Right, there's your front court. It's great. You got a versatile, defensive center. Be the lob threat. Makes a ton of sense alongside Luka. You got LeBron James and Cam Johnson out on the wing. Cam Johnson can defend. Cam Johnson can defend 1 through 5. He's also a guy that can knock down the 3 ball, right? He's a guy that can create a little bit for himself, create a little bit for others, right? Go get a legit 2-way, 3-and-D wing, to slot alongside Luka, and we're in business. Right? I mean, you could even go Dorian Finney-Smith if you wanted. You could go Luka, Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, LeBron James, and like a Nick Claxton. Boom, let's go. Right now you got size, you got defense, you got switchability, right? You got 3 6'8" guys out on the wing that all can defend, all switch, 1 through 5. And then you got Nick Claxton, who's a, versatile defensive guy who can defend in the pick and roll, defend out on the perimeter, defend in space, right? Like, basically give you all the things that you need from a Lakers standpoint, right? And then you also have LeBron, Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson who can all shoot the basketball, right? All 3 guys can help rebound and defend and be the hustle work and do the dirty work and all those things, right? Like, you kind of look at it, it's like, man, Cam Johnson makes a ton of sense. End of the day, it really comes down to what is the cost? What is the value, right? Like, how much do you have to give up? Right? If you have to do like a first and a pick swap and Austin Reeves and all this, and then I keep them. I'd rather just kind of, try to piece together guys or get like cheaper guys and just kind of take a flyer on them. Right. But if you could get him for, like I said, expiring contracts, let's say Rui and Shake Milton, trade Shake Milton back. That's 20 something million. I would probably give up more if they were willing to take on salary. Right? Like, let's say they miss out on Giannis and they're like, as long as it's expiring contracts, we're like, we'll take it. Right? Like, so, like, my point is, like, let's say you could trade Cam Johnson. Like, I might even give up Austin Reeves at that point. Right? Like, if you could do something where you're giving up, say, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and, like, Maxi Kleber, right? And then give up a first and a pick swap, right? You clear, like, 20 million off the books. And then on top of clearing 20 million off the books, right? Like, you clear roster spots, you get a 3-and-D wing that you can pair alongside LeBron and Luka. And now if LeBron takes a discount, you might have like, 17, 18 million in actual cap space, right? So you go sign a guy and use your mid-level and do all that. Like, like if that's the only way, I'd probably like sell the farm, but getting a little ahead of myself. Straightforward. I wouldn't get too carried away with Cam Johnson, but I'd love to have him. Either way, I'd love to hear it. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. As always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out, so we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.